be from Myanmar or also from India, or what is the scenario?
Yes, few people from India also.
So Vatsal sahab, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Have not been able to travel since January, and half my family is in Singapore, half is over here, and we are not able to sort of go there, or they are not able to come here. So that's becoming a bit of a stress. But otherwise, surviving.
Okay. So you are getting my mails?
Yeah, I get all your mails. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, so we will wait 1 more minute, then we will start. Now we are already live on Facebook as well as on YouTube, and I'm doing just for backup recording also. So there's
बिल्कुल बोलिए
welcome Dhanuka ji.
वेलकम बत्सल भाई चमक रहे हैं एकदम
As always.
always
वो मॉर्निंग वॉक पे जा रहे हैं, आप नहीं जा रहे हैं ना?
मेरा पाँव का तुम लोग बड़ा बजा दिया ना
अरे क्या हो गया यार? I forgot to ask you, man. What happened?
स्टक कर गया है कोई दीवार से मंदिर गया था तो काफी जोर से भिड़ गया तो फिर मैं दूसरे दिन गया भी कि फ्रैक्चर वगैरह हुआ है क्या तो रविंदर ने बताया था तो देखा बोला ना ऐसा नहीं है फ्रैक्चर तो नहीं हुआ बच गया मगर उसमें पेन है अभी भी मेरे समझ में नेक्स्ट वीक में ऑलरेडी मैं आना चालू करूंगा जूता पहनने में प्रॉब्लम है ऐसे ऑफिस जा रहे हैं सब कर रहे हैं स्लीपर पहन के
But you got a bandage or something?
ना बैंडेज का दरकार नहीं बना वो आइस सेक के लिए बोल रहा है आजकल सबसे बेस्ट वो होता है आइस का यदि आप करो ना दैट इज गुड उससे ही कर रहे हैं और 3-4 बार
Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen. So now it is already 12:30. So now we can start.
चंद्रशेखर जी कहाँ हैं?
This is Chandrasekhar.
Oh, hi Chandrasekhar ji. Dhanuka here.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello. How are you? Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome today for our talk, which is organized with the partnership with this OTAM and with my GoPO, which is a global organization of people of Indian origin. As you know, currently our Prime Minister have a vision to have a better relation with the neighbors, and in this neighbors, Myanmar come the nearest one. We already know. So, which is the best thing which we can do? Like Myanmar grow the pulses, Indian eat the pulses. So today we will. So we have already around $2 billion worth of business every year. So how we can enhance that business to more? I will be, excuse me, just a minute.
I think you should mute everyone except the speaker.
Yeah. Okay, I will mute all, then I will open up. That is better. Just a minute. Okay, so now we have a today talk very one of the best possible people who know the pulses in and out, two from India, two from Myanmar, who eat and breathe pulses and agriculture business. So we will, after talking this, so today a session is going to be a discussion how Myanmar or India can increase their pulses business and how it enhance India-Myanmar relation through pulses. So for that, I would like to welcome today our all guest, Mr. Vijay Sardana, he is a very well-known personality. Everybody knows him who see the Indian TV. He is like a TV star. Every day I see him to one channel to another channel. He is a high court lawyer and so many things. And he can tell something about himself. And then we have another veteran and very knowledgeable guest from India, Professor Chandrasekhar, who is who is an economist, who writes to Hindu newspaper. He writes so many things. So it is very difficult for me to describe, and he know in and out of pulses and agriculture businesses. So these are the two guests from India and another two guests from Myanmar. One is our own Mr. Batsal Lilani, who is the president of OTA, and he is an Indian by heart, but live in Myanmar and very much interested in pulses business. And fourth speaker, we have Dr. Moyluin from the Pulses Association. So my first question will be to Mr. Chandrasekhar about this new APMC Act, which is just passed by Government of India. What is this act and what is the effect of pulses in India and what will going to affect to the Myanmar business? So now, sir, I will request you, please explain us what is all this. Please unmute yourself.
There are three major agri-market reforms which the government of India has initiated in the last 2 or 3 months. It started with ordinance in the month of January, in the month of June, first week of June, and then it became law recently. There are three laws. One is amendment to the Essential Commodities Act, under which grains and pulses and several oilseeds and oils have been kept outside the purview of the Essential Commodities Act, which means the trade can actually now build inventory without fear. Okay? This is one part. The second part is on contract farming, a legal framework for groups of farmers and entrepreneurs to come together and undertake contract farming. And contract farming is something which Indians are not unfamiliar. Contract farming continues in some way or the other. I have done myself, but let's not go into that. The important question that you now raise is on one nation, one agriculture market. The law now permits that in addition to APMC markets, private markets can also operate. All markets are under the purview of the state governments. There are approximately 7,500 APMC markets across the country. All of them fall under the purview of the state government. Every state has 100, 150, 200, 250 markets. They're all controlled. The APMC markets are controlled by the committee, Agriculture Produce Market Committee. Unfortunately, these committees are highly politicized. And because of the politicized nature of these committees, farmers have not been able to get the price that they think they deserve to get. And there has not been much of a quality related price. No, farmers would expect that if I were to produce a good quality, I should get a good price, a better price than others. But that was not happening. So the government of India realized that there has to be competition to the state-controlled APMC markets, and therefore now they have allowed private markets to operate. Now, private markets can be started by anybody. It can start with your own warehouse in your own premises if you have, or it can be a silo, it can be a cold chain, it can be a go down anywhere, whatever. You can start a private warehouse. This means farmers today have a choice. They can go to APMC market or they are free to go to the private market. Therefore, this has now enhanced the degrees of marketing freedom for farmers. This is number one. Number two, it's too early to say whether all the farmers will shift to the private markets and not go to APMC markets. Private markets will still have to find their business model because they cannot charge any fee, and but they will have recurring expenses. They will need huge amount of liquidity to pay the farmers, and therefore they will take quite some time, several months, several quarters, probably one more year for the private sector to find a viable business model to run private markets. And that, I believe, gives time for the state controlled, state regulated agriculture produce markets to revamp themselves, reinvent themselves. The state governments can depoliticize these committees, try and build more transparency, use technology, and try and deliver more transparent prices to the farmer. Therefore, this is going to be a situation of healthy competition between the APMC or state-controlled government markets and private markets, which have now been allowed. This is the primary purpose of that law. That particular law also removes all the barriers to transporting goods both within the state and between states, interstate and intrastate. Therefore, all the restrictions have now been removed. Farmers are free to take their cargo to any state and sell anywhere. But it's a very positive development as far as India is concerned. Surely, this is going to help agriculture, all farmers, because it's going to enhance their marketing freedom. Specifically for pulses, well, what happens to agriculture in general? If it's beneficial, it's going to benefit pulse growers also. Therefore, we need to look at the three laws in combination: Contract Farming, Essential Commodities Act, and the private markets and removal of movement restrictions as one package. And that whole package is very positive. And I'm sure it's going to encourage traders and dal mills, for example, to build stocks without fear of penal action or without fear of the government invoking the Essential Commodities Act. We all remember what happened in 2015 and 2016 when prices spiked. There were raids, seizure, penalty, etc. I think it took a long time for those companies to get out of the clutches of the authorities. Therefore, these are very positive things. This is, I believe, very positive for pulses, where traders can more confidently start building their inventory. And for the farmers, this law is going to help improve the marketability of the crop for the farmers. So it's a very positive step.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chandrasekhar. Now, my question to Mr. Vijay Sardana, your opinion about that SAM 3 Act, and apart this, another question. Now, the litigation, like this Punjab Assembly has passed the law. So, being an advocate, what is the implication of that tomorrow? Because in India, for everything there is a politics. So, what will going to affect of that? Central government law will continue, or Punjab government law will continue? What law says?
Very important questions. First of all, good morning to all our viewers, those who are there. Let me add one clarification to what Chandrasekhar ji has mentioned. The law is not only for private market, but for anyone. So the law is not here to promote any market. What law is saying is that whoever wants to deal with the farmer, even you as a consumer, trader, buyer, warehouse owner, value chain participant, exporter, importer, whoever you are, you can deal with the farmer now. There is no need for license. There is no mandi fee. There is nothing in this. So it is basically a free open market without any barrier. So that is a small clarification what Chandrasekhar ji has mentioned. So it is not for private market. Let's be very clear. If you want to create a private market, you can. But if you don't want to create a market and you want to deal as a even retail shop directly with the farmer, you are allowed to do it. You are an exporter, you want to deal directly with the farmer, you can do it. There is no need for APMC Mandi licensing system now. You can deal outside APMC system. When you are dealing outside APMC system, there is no taxation or cess or duty or any form of surcharge or charges on you in any form whatsoever, either by the state government or by the union government. Adding to that, now what is important here is that what is the way forward and what are the opportunities here? See, the purpose of the whole act is basically to liberalize the agriculture system from all the clutches of so-called policy or political interference into the market. The reason was very simple that today, if you look at it, when farmers were getting 30, 40, 25 rupees for pulses, sitting in Delhi, I was paying 110, 120 rupees for pulses for the same pulses which were traded by the local middleman traders. I understand there are processing charges, milling charges, but still there was a huge padding in between. And we all know how the business operates. Now, what this law says very clearly, as I mentioned, you can deal directly. You can have whatever way you want to deal with. Tomorrow, suppose you feel there is a special variety of pulses you want to grow for your export purpose or for any market, the new law which says Contract Act, you can enter into Contract Act. Any amount of pulses you want to produce, you can. You can give technology to farmers. Whatever you want, whatever way you want to deal with, it is a freedom between farmer and the sponsor of the contract. You can plan the way you want to do it. Third aspect, which is on the issue of liberalization on warehousing, all the value chain participants, whoever is in agri-business, they can stock as much as they want, provided there is a catch in this. You cannot go into a speculative trade. If you are not in pulses business, if you are not having a track record of dealing in agriculture, you are not supposed to stock. The law is very clear. So it is not a free run. And even if you are a miller, there is a limit on the installed capacity. You cannot say that I have 50-ton mills and I am stocking 50,000 tons. That is also a catch on it. So there is safeguards built into the law. And we have to keep those factors in mind because there are too many rumors in the market, too many misunderstanding of the law. So I thought, let me clarify this, that if somebody is thinking that I am not in pulse business, but I know in coming days, India will be in short supply of pulses, let me start building warehouses and go for a speculative trading. Yes, up to a small limit, you can think of it. But if the prices crosses, in case of non-perishables, more than 50%, of last year's 12 months average, government can clamp down on you. So it is a free market as long as it operates in discipline. If there are people, those who want to rig the market, the law will take its own course. So for riggers, for speculators, for manipulators, there is no escape. For fair trade people, there is enough freedom to operate in the game. That is as per the existing law. Now the issue which raised about the Punjab laws. Punjab laws are very funny in its own context. I wrote it very clearly. I'm sure you must have seen my posts. Punjab laws have created more problem for Punjab farmers instead of solving any problem. It is going to create many, many more problems for any state government who is going to follow the Punjab model. Let me elaborate very simple thing. Punjab government says nobody will trade in wheat and paddy. Please mark my word what I'm saying. Nobody will trade in wheat and paddy below MSP. Full stop. Means what? Anyone who is dealing less than MSP will get 3 years jail. It's a criminal offense, not even a civil case. Now, with this context, what is law is a dangerous thing. Law does not talk about MSP of which quality. Whether quality is good, bad, ugly, you have to pay MSP. Which trader will buy any commodity without looking at quality? And if quality is sometimes high moisture, sometimes you have extra foreign material, you pay less price and do cleaning in your house or in factory, and then you take it further validation, export, or whatever you want to do with that. Now, farmers will be forced to clean it and only then come to Mandi if they want MSP. And we know 80% of material when it is harvested does not meet quality. Either it is high in moisture or high in foreign material, because when you go through the threshers or combine harvesting, there's too much foreign matter into the game. So most of the farmers will not get buyers because I cannot pay less and get the material, do rest of the processing in-house. I'm not allowed to give anything less than MSP. And the material which farmers are bringing, 80% of the material, I don't want to give MSP. So what is the game? Game is simple. I will not buy from the Punjab farmer. Where Punjab farmer will sell and who will buy, that Punjab government has to decide now. market is not under obligation to it, because I don't want to go to jail for helping farmers. That is one thing very clear. Number two, in this game, Punjab government also says that whatever way systems are happening, there are all the exemptions which is given by the central government. Now, important point here is that this law is only for two crops, paddy and wheat. Now, what will happen? The already other farmers are going to move away from their what they are doing in cotton or other things. They will go back to paddy and wheat, because now when government is giving assurance of MSP trade, farmers are saying why I should grow maize, why I should grow pulses, why I should grow oil seeds or whatever, unless they are confident of selling on their own. They will again depend on MSP, which is assured by the government in the law. But at the same time, we know practical scenario, they will never get MSP, because private trade will move away from Punjab. And that is where there's going to be more problems for Punjab farmers than less. Wait and see. I think we will have the very interesting music in the month of April when the wheat crop will come in. And then we will see what happens. Now, coming back to this whole last point is that what this law says is that today it is a huge opportunity for people, those who are in business, to go back to farmer. Today our productivity is low. Our agriculture activities needs a lot of upgradation. I think today the correct market forces will go to the farmer, and if there is a good profit in pulses, farmer will move away from wheat, rice or other crops to pulses, or any other crop where they find productivity which is leading to profitability. So there is going to be next 2 years very interesting how farmers' behavior is going to change. I think it's going to be lesson and messages for all of us. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bizay. My question to now, Mr. Mjolnir. You are one of the Mr. Mjolnir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my question to you that you are a large originator of pulses from Myanmar and are touched with local farmer and exporter. What would be the Myanmar farm supply chain expect from the terms of policy from government of India? What you people are expecting to the Indian government, which Myanmar traders and farmer wants, so you can have continuous supply of pulses to India? What is your expectation?
Yeah. First of all, very good afternoon to everybody. Yeah, actually, Myanmar and India, a lot of long-term, very century business relationship with Myanmar and India is that so many years ago. Yes, and then rice and pulses is a main business relationship. No? Yes, and then nowadays the pulses industry between Myanmar and India is very huge market and very good relationship in Myanmar and India. Yeah, and then Myanmar also what happened is in nearly 13 lakh, 14 lakh, 1.3 to 1.4 million pulses and beans every year producing, and around out of this nearly 60 to 70% of the total pulses and beans already. The main market is only the India. Myanmar, this our local consumption is very less. Suppose maybe the 1 lakh metric ton maximum, and Myanmar producing. Everybody knows Myanmar producing the main 3 items of the pulses. What? Black market. 2, cream bean, and 3, pigeon pea or tuor. And black market in India, everybody knows that this is urad beans, like this. Okay, and then what happened is from 1988 to 1990, Myanmar opened the open market policy. And then nearly how much? 30 years already, Myanmar and India business relationship is very good. That time, maybe the last 20 years, 25 years, Myanmar producing only 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 metric ton pulses and beans. But nowadays, is slowly increasing. And last 3 years, I think maybe that almost 1.3 to 1.4 billion ton beans and pulses they are producing, and out of that maybe 1 million ton regularly, annually we are exporting to main market India. And out of this black market and pigeon pea is the main two things. But unfortunately, this last 3 years, 2017 August, India government, this DGFT, this Director General of Foreign Trade, they make the quota system. Suddenly they make the quota system. Suppose black market, we can export annually 2.5 lakh metric ton, green being 1.5 lakh metric ton, and pigeon pea maybe 1.5 or 2 lakh metric ton that years. And 2018, they announced like this, and then maybe that suddenly this is nearly 20 year, 25 year, the openly we can sell, and business relationship is very good. But suddenly the India government, they announced quota system. This is very much no experience with Myanmar farmer and this our traders and exporter, and also no experience with this Indian company based in the Yangon, like Mr. Vexel or Mr. Piri, like this. They are buying and they exporting to India. Then in 2018, because of the quota system, the prices down too much, and also the carry forward cargo, so many urek and pigeon peas. That is why in 2019 also another this quota system is still remaining, and they announced the quotas and license system. And 2020 also they nearly now 3 years successively they are doing this quota system. Still they are doing, no? Yeah.
So what is your government or EU Pulses Association is expecting from what you are telling? It is what they are doing, but what is your expectation? I want to know that.
Yeah. And I want to, according to that, this quota system, the Myanmar farmers and these traders and exporters, nobody cannot expect that how much for 1 year, how much the India can buy or cannot buy, or maybe for 2021, nobody cannot expect how much quota will come in, how much quantity, black market, green bombing, and dual. Because this is the agriculture products. Agriculture products mean we have to announce or we have to indicate some indication this year for 2021, the India government will buy this amount. Otherwise, we cannot pay the indication to our farmer, because Myanmar farmer very much happy with that to grow their pulses and beans, because they also having a lot of years, they have the experience, they are happy with the sowing of the pulses and beans to supply the main India the market. But nowadays, farmers slowly, they are a little bit disappointed, because we cannot pay the indication. And then because of the quota system, at the time, Myanmar harvesting time, the farmer cannot get their good, reasonable price, because every trader is afraid or not reliable or anything what will happen. That's why every year, I think maybe the 2018, 19, 20, most of them, Myanmar farmer, they cannot get the reasonable price of they are produced. That means the quota system of India is very much I'm happy for this Myanmar farmers, traders, and even also exporter, also Myanmar-based Indian company also. I mean,
Okay.
that's why I want to pay you one message is that please review the quota system and license issuing system of the India government, the DGFT. They are doing nearly 3 years. They already doing their aim and objective of this license system and quota system is actually practical, workable or not. Please make that review and work out, and then please make some amendment or open the policy, open trade or amendment or something regulation, or please you make some another alternative system for India and Myanmar government, the trade, business trade to promote and mutual benefits of the both of the countries.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mulan. Now I will ask Mr. Batsal what you want to add the demand of Mr. Mulan.
I think what Dr. Melvin has said is absolutely correct. We need to review this quota system and see as to whether it has served its purpose. And I will tell you why that is so. If you look at this year as to what the Indian government has bought, the total quota announced was for 4 lakh tons of black matpe, was for a total of 4 lakh tons of tuar, which over and above the 2 lakh tons that they have given to Mozambique comes to 6 lakh tons. In the non-quota regime, the total amount of tuar that was being imported was about 6 lakh tons. So the quota has not done anything to restrict the quantity of tuar. If you take the average of the last 10 years of black matpe, what was imported into India from Myanmar, it was almost 4.5 lakh tons. Now the quota is for 4 lakh tons. So, we are neither here nor there in terms of the total amount of quantity that has been reduced. And what the quota system has done is, it has created a lot of inefficiencies within the system. And I'll give you an example of it. Tuar whole license was issued around the 10th of October. And it said that arrivals have got to be into Indian ports by the 15th of November, which means a window of 35 days was given for imports of 4 lakh tons of tuar. On the day of the announcement, the freight to Chennai was just $350 a container. Today, we are paying $1,100 a container because everybody wants to ship out, because there is a deadline to be met. And finally, who's going to bear the brunt of this? It is going to be borne by the consumer. He's going to pay that $750 extra freight because the trader is not going to absorb it. The shipper is not going to absorb it. Finally, the person who's buying the tuar dal off the shelves in India, it is going to be costed in there. So when you have a restriction, a license restriction of this sort, it creates a fair amount of inefficiency within the system, and this has got to be looked at. I'm sure this was done by the Indian government with a definite objective in mind, but I think the objective also needs to be looked at from a commercial perspective as to whether it makes sense commercially, whether there are inefficiencies being built into the system because of restrictions of this sort. And this is what I think they should do, review as to whether the original system that we had of the open general license was a much better one, in my opinion, because at the end of it, the market is a great leveler. People are not going to import if they find that money cannot be made. If they find that the stock is low, they will import, which is good for the consumer too. And every farmer is also a consumer, whereas every consumer is not a farmer. So you got to balance both these interests out. I'm sure the Indian government wants to make sure that the farmer is well compensated, and the MSP does that. But at the same time, the interest of the consumer has also got to be looked at. And when you're having to pay $750 more per container just out of freight, I don't think the interest of the consumer is met. So I'd just like to rest my case at that. And over back to you, Ravindra.
Thank you, Mr. Batsal. Now I will request Mr. Chandrasekhar. Now you and Mr. Vijay both have the Myanmar concern. So I want to listen why Indian government has done the quota system. and why they are not doing that old system which they used to do, the open policy. So they should understand why government has done and what will be the way forward. Please open your mic, unmute your mic.
If you go back 4 years ago, 2016, India produced something like 15.5 million tons of pulses, and we imported 6.6 million tons of pulses. Okay. And subsequent year, 16, 17, there was a rebound in India's own production to some whatever number, 22 or 23 million tons. And then in the subsequent 2 years, we are able to maintain that 22 to 24 million tons production range. Prices collapsed as a result of a rebound in production and a huge inventory of imported pulses within the country. Consumption was not going up as anticipated. So we had a huge amount of stock burden, which obviously depressed domestic prices, and the government's decision to impose quantitative restrictions in August 2017 was completely justified. After all, the government came into power promising farmers that their incomes will be doubled in 5 years and all those promises. For as a part of this, they had to impose quantitative restrictions, number one. Number two, quantitative restrictions, first it was 2 or 2.5 lakh tons of urad and PGNP. Last year it was raised to 4 lakh tons. So in 2019-20 or 2021, it is 400,000 tons of urad, 400,000 tons of PGNP, and I think 150,000 tons of more, if my numbers are correct. And therefore, we have slightly increased actually the quantity under the QR. Well, this is a dynamic process. The government will continue to review. Number one, I'm not a government spokesman. Let me make it very clear. But there is a logic in what the government of India is doing. We had a 30-month bear market in pulses, and that bear market came to an end 3 months ago. Therefore, the market is now in a state of equilibrium. The stock burden which we faced for 2 full years is now substantially declined, and therefore you find prices have now begun to rise. Prices have moved a little beyond minimum support price in many cases. Yes. Therefore, we have now reached a point of demand-supply balance or a point of equilibrium. From now on, there will certainly be concerns relating to inflation, food inflation. I was hoping the Reserve Bank of India will once again, like they did in the month of April or May, talk about pulses prices increasing, but they haven't. But I'm sure it's only a matter of time before the RBI again starts to flag inflation concerns. And that will send out a message again back to the government of India. But my strong sense is the QRs are not going to go away anytime soon. The QRs will continue. Possibly the quantities may be raised further from, say, for PGNP and urad, 400,000 tons can become 500 or even 600,000 tons. But I don't see our India's pulses import policy going back to the OGL days anytime soon.
Thank you,
primarily, the government of India's responsibility is one, to protect farmers' interests, or certainly appear to protect farmers' interests. And second, of course, they also have to take care of the consumers. And as a part of their objective to take care of the consumers, obviously, you saw in the last 7 months, free supply of free ration of chickpea to vulnerable families. About 180 or 190 million vulnerable families, 1 kilo a month. Whether this is adequate or not is another question. But the government of India is doing both, protecting the farmers on the one side, protecting vulnerable consumers on the other side. The question I want to ask Myanmar is, what is Myanmar doing to engage with Indian policymakers to lobby the Indian policymakers for a more favorable import policy. What have you done? I think that'll be very interesting for me to know, because it is not only Vatsal's OTAM that is talking to me. Your Myanmar India Chamber of Commerce, very senior officials are engaged with me continuously, but I haven't seen any progress. I don't know what the latest is in terms of your engagement with Indian policymakers. That'll be interesting for me to know. Yeah.
Dr.
thank
Miovin,
you.
you want to answer this?
Yes.
He's asking as to whether there is any contact between the Myanmar and the Indian governments to try and increase the quota of pigeon peas and black mat pay.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any discussions that have happened?
Just one second. Just before, let me just make one more point. Your president, Myanmar president, was in India in the month of February.
Yes.
February 2020, 10 MOUs were signed covering oil and gas and education, health, infrastructure, communication, all that. Was any discussion on agribusiness, on pulses? For so that's a part of this question. What kind of engagement Myanmar has with Indian policymakers to address this problem?
Yeah, Mr. Merlin, you want to answer this question, or I will take? I will request first, Mr. Sardana, please you comment on the concern of Myanmar, and then I will ask a question from Mr. Merlin.
Yes. Actually, what Mr. Chandrasekhar is telling that what kind of policy or what kind of MOU between Myanmar and Indian government to we want to change some policy, open up policy, or otherwise the alternatives of this one, the quota system to, or other MOU between India government and government of India and Myanmar government, and based on that process trade. Suppose like this, Mozambique, to all Mozambique government and India government, they are make that memorandum of that understanding, but it is only based on the tonnage quantity, not like the price wise. And we also want to suggest like this MOU system based on the quantity only. For example, like in Uren, maybe the 4 lakh metric ton or 5 lakh metric ton, we can export freely, not need any special license or quota, anything. Maybe the pigeon pea, maybe 1.5 lakh or 2 lakh metric ton from Myanmar, the special allowance for 1 year. For this MOU, for maybe the validity, maybe the 4 or 5 years. We can tell to our Myanmar farmers, we already make the ministerial memorandum understanding. This would have been maybe the 4 lakh or 5 lakh metric ton, the pigeon pea 1.5 lakh or 2 lakh metric ton. We need to time properly, and we have to make some agreement between the Myanmar government, the Ministry of Commerce, and our association. Also, we already suggest to our Ministry of Commerce.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merlin.
The question is, what have you done? What have you done to ensure that this objective actually materializes? What lobbying have you lobbied the Indian government? Have you represented? That is the question I was asking.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, what I can tell you, because Mr. Merlin is not from Myanmar government, so he's just telling his association what they have done. So he doesn't know what Myanmar government has done. Now I will request Mr. Vijay Sardana to first that why India have that quota system. So that please put your words, your thought about that, and what is your way to way forward to India, Myanmar to have some certainty in pulses business in coming future. So it should be a win-win situation to Myanmar farmers also and India. I can understand both government have their own priority They want to protect, Indian government want to protect Indian farmer, Myanmar government want to protect Myanmar farmer. So what will be the way forward where we can have win-win situation? Your thought, Mr. Vijay. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Ajay sir, it's a very important issue. I think we should keep one thing in mind, that Indian government is elected by Indian farmers, not by Myanmar farmers. So priority is very well defined. There is no question of either or. Definition is very clear. The priority of government of India will always remain Indian farmers, like in any democracy. So why Indian government is doing all that? They will do it whatever is required to protect the Indian farmers' interest, Indian business interest, Indian political interest, Indian strategic interest, whatever you call it. And I think every government has a right to do that. So there is no, I will not go into detail why and why not. I think that is one aspect. Now, what is important is what is the way forward.
Yes, that is more important.
The way forward is very simple. I'm dealing with government of India and day in out every day on all the sectors related to agriculture and also now non-agriculture sectors. See, what is important for Myanmar, and last time when I was there in Myanmar, we had, you remember, we had a discussion with Mr. Vatsal and the team there. We had a long chat.
Yeah.
See, we have to understand that how we should communicate with policy makers and address their concerns. Okay?
Yeah.
We have to understand. We have to act as a, as a friends, as a partner in development, not as a predator. We have to be very clear in our approaches. Because I have a surplus pulses I want to dump in India to get rid of my stocks in Myanmar so that I make money and also my farmers are able to offload the consignment. And if that is going to hurt Indian farmers or Indian ecosystem in which the Indian agriculture is going to operate, obviously there's going to be equal repercussion and there's going to be resistance from the local community also. We have to factor this in mind. And I'm dealing with not just Myanmar, but I'm dealing with people from Africa, I'm dealing with Europe, I'm dealing with America, I'm dealing with Japan, I'm dealing with Malaysia. I'm dealing with a whole lot of countries around the world. And most of my clients are multinationals or outside India. What we are trying to say is that you have to develop that sensitivity as a Myanmar, because please appreciate, you are the closest partner to us geographically and logistically. Okay, number one. Number two, you have to appreciate one thing, the way Indian agriculture system is developing, the way Indian population is growing, the way we are planning our economic development, whether people like it or not, down the line 5 years, there's going to be shortage of many commodities in India, whether we like it or not. And my assumption is very simple. Today, we are talking of about 140 million hectares of agriculture land. Our population is touching almost 1,400 million people. It means per person agriculture land is just 0.1 hectare. And with growing population, with reduction in water table, with other challenges, and when we are talking of climate change and then corona and whole lot of new unforeseen developments will continue to happen, but it's not going to be the way we want. So there is also going to be a lot of shocks in the supply chain and also the production system. I cannot expect that India will be insulated and isolated from all the shocks of climate change, water, stress, drought, flooding. All these things will continue in India. My point is that, are we looking into India in a holistic manner, in a long-term agenda, or we are only looking into a transactional relationship and also, I have 20 containers lying, how to dump in India and get me some quota out of it? What is the plan of Myanmar? This is precisely I'm talking to Africa. If you ask me very honestly, I wrote a paper, Pulses Diplomacy. India can do wonders. We can beat China by using pulses as a tool. Let me tell you very honestly. Are we using that strategic advantage of pulses? Are we thinking from that angle? Or we are only looking like a trader कि मेरे पास मटेरियल है and I have just material of 100 container or million ton or a half a lakh ton and I want to dump in India? What is the strategic thinking of Myanmar when it comes to pulses? That's important aspect. And if we are not thinking strategically, when it comes to food security and nutrition security of India, Myanmar can be a partner in that agenda, then you are missing the bus. You are not even looking at how you have to build your market. And the concern will remain that what I should tell my farmers. I don't know what you have to tell the farmers because you don't want to understand my requirement. So there is a need to have a long-term understanding. There has to be a long-term partnership. We have to work at our level first. Then we go and convince the Myanmar government that this is where you can help India. Then we go to Indian government, tell them, see, this is what our estimate is. You will be needing food supplies. Can we help you like this as a partner? Can we have a long-term MOU? It is not going to hurt your farmers. It will also benefit me. And there are many ways. So what I'm trying to say is that you are in a strong wicket, but somehow you don't want to see further. You just want to look at the immediate pit. And which you are saying it is too big, I don't know how to handle it. The fact of the matter is, in this immediate crisis which is bothering you, you are not able to visualize the bigger picture with Myanmar-India partnership can happen. And this crisis which you are going through today is again, I will say that it is again because of short-sighted approach. That we never wanted to understand the business between India and Myanmar. We only wanted to understand how to get rid of the consignments and how to do transactions. We do not think beyond trade. We are short-sighted, rear-view looking mirror traders. We don't have a strategy. We don't have a plan. We don't have a vision. We don't understand the needs of both markets and supply side. This is bound to happen. But
What is your recommendation?
My recommendation is there is a huge opportunity unfolding for Myanmar. Are you willing to look at it? Do you have patience? Do you have desire to work? Are you willing to put resources for that? Or you are simply looking at quick fix solution? I am working with other countries. Let me tell you, we have planned for 2023-24, which we started working last year, because we know there is going to be $1 million business. So we are at least willing to spend a couple of $1,000 now. Point here is that as a transactional business relation, what you are looking at is, I don't want to invest anything. I don't want to do any homework. Somebody should do it for me and keep the market ready. I simply go and harvest. This world doesn't work anymore like this. Instead of dealing with that, why don't I deal with Africa? There I can get much better political mileage than Myanmar if I have to deal in pulses. And that's what I'm saying. Pulses can be a very important diplomatic tool for me as India. If Myanmar is not willing to look at it, if you ask me very honestly, I can see Myanmar is a logical partner with us, logical partner. But there is a lethargy at your end. And if you ask me honestly how I can use pulses diplomatically, I'll prefer to invest in Africa. So ball is in your court, how you activate yourself. Thank you.
Okay. There is a, Mr. Sardana, there is a one question for you. Would the pure pulses traders be able to stock good quantity of pulses in India for trading subject to provision on change in prices? If so, is there any quantum limit or any for such stock?
Indian agriculture is going through one of the biggest reforms in the last 70 years. This will change the total landscape of Indian agriculture in down the line 2 to 5 years. All apprehensions, restrictions, thought process, whatever you are doing was, I will say that, expired in the month of September 2020. Look at new India in agriculture space from now onwards. Don't look into what was history of India. That's gone now. With these 3 laws, Indian landscape, at least in agriculture and food supply chain, has totally changed. The only time lag is the investments and the visionary leadership. We are just waiting for that. You can come and invest in India. It's a huge opportunity. You set up your supply chains, buy in India, also buy from Myanmar, set up your processing facilities in India. Why you want to do only trade? That's what I'm saying. You are not even looking at bigger picture. It's a huge opportunity unfolding. Huge. But we are not looking beyond our consignments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vijay. Now, my next question to Dr. Meoloen: how has COVID disrupted the pulses supply chain within Myanmar?
Yes, this COVID, actually in 2020, COVID is starting in the February and March. But that time, only the COVID pandemic is only, the epicenter is mostly in the China. And then in the month of, I think maybe that time, Myanmar already harvested the black pepper, green mung bean, PGP, everything. But that time, Myanmar outbreak, it can say zero. And then maybe the April, May, June, the epicenter is shift to the Europe. That time also that the epicenter is there, and still I think maybe up to the month of May or June, I think maybe in Myanmar only infection case is only the 1 digit or maybe two digit maximum. And so that means that in Myanmar, because of COVID effect, no, actually in Myanmar the infection rate is almost very suddenly increased in that month of August and September and now October. Maybe now the infection rate maybe the 40,000 over, and maybe but actually 2.5% of the people, they are dying. I mean that this is the COVID situation in Myanmar. But actually in the time of COVID outbreak, first, we can call it the first wave in the April, but not too much affecting our this person being business, because this is already I already told you is that this is a food system. We are doing this food items, and in the month of March, April, and May, we can export the normal and regular quantity, or maybe the more business, because that time in the India and this European country, and mostly the US, UK, Canada, like this country, all they need panic buying, and mostly the people they are buying the mostly the pulses and beans for their homemade food, and all their the grocery shop already stock, all are out of stock like this. Okay. And then after this August, September, October, now this Myanmar a little bit affected because of this industrial area. There's some factory, and the labor also some infection is there, and then Myanmar also sometimes the already lockdown nearly. Not the semi-lockdown, no? The movement restriction, and labor cannot come and doing properly, and some factory we cannot open properly or 100% cannot move like this. But actually the whole the supply chain of the Myanmar, the present supply chain is cannot affected by this COVID, because in the rural area farmers now they plan to sowing, and also that nowadays the prices of the pulses is little bit higher, and then maybe the next year international demand also can be higher. That means the farmers are very much willing to sowing the beans and pulses more, and trader also they are thinking maybe the 2021 our pulses the business will be more better than the 2020, and then and maybe this is my opinion, maybe that in 2021 some of the business are already collapsed with because of COVID, like hotel and traveling business, but our this pulses and bean business very very good opportunity in the 2021 after COVID. Maybe there's some. Now they all over the world. Their circulation is nearly normal, and everybody already know to how to live the new normal life, and most of this circulation now are everything okay. That means thinking about our puzzle industry maybe the very good future in the 2020.
Thank you. So now we are covering almost 1 hour. So Mr. Chandrasekhar, I want to ask a first question to Mr. Batsal, then I am coming to you. Mr. Batsal, after listening the Myanmar perspective, India perspective, and you are the one person who is connected to both. What is your say, and what you are seeing the future of Myanmar, India, this pulses business? Your take.
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Sardana said, that every country has a right to protect its own interest, the interest of its farmers and consumers, in a way that it thinks best. But given the fact that India is short of pulses, if India cannot go back to the OGL, the Open General License system, if the quantitative restrictions are going to be here to stay, when the licenses are given, instead of restricting the expiry of the license to 45 days, if they're issuing the license, say in the month of May or June, you allow shipments to carry on till the 31st of March next year, which is what they had originally announced, so that people are not in a rush, so that you don't start paying a premium for every service that is offered to you, so that buyers also can think as to when they want to bring the material in, depending on what their stock level is, what the local crop is, what the prices are. And nobody is sort of rushed to buy within a time span of 30 days just to meet a deadline that has been set. So, this is what I think. I think either you go back to the OGL if that is not possible, and the reasons are well known for it, and the reasons are they have their own merit. Go back to a license system, but give adequate time to the shippers and the buyers to complete the transaction. I would say a period of at least 9 months.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Batsal. Now I will give everybody to say a few words for your closing remarks. Now, Mr. Chandrasekhar, you can answer Maulian answer as well as your closing remarks.
For Myanmar, I think the way forward is very clearly work with the Indian government, lobby the Indian government for a specific quota for Myanmar. I believe it is possible. But you need to sell this idea to the government of India. That's number one. And once you have a specific quota for Myanmar origin pulses, you can actually structure the import in terms of price and timing. It can be structured in a way that it does not hurt India's Indian domestic pulse grower. This is number one. Number two, Myanmar runs a trade surplus with India. India faces a trade deficit with Myanmar of $680 million in 2018-19, if I remember correctly, which is twice the amount from the previous year of 2017-18, which was about 320 million or whatever. So $680 million trade deficit. What is it Myanmar? What is Myanmar going to do to bridge this trade deficit? Can Myanmar buy something from India? Can Myanmar buy sugar from India? I wrote about this probably a year or two ago. If I'm sure Vatsal will know about that. So therefore, it is not a one-way street. You need to engage one with the policymakers. Yes, surely they seek and work for a very specific quota for Myanmar origin pulses. Also look at what is it Myanmar can import from India in order to reduce the trade deficit. These are very important aspects. You need to invite Indian investors and entrepreneurs to come to Myanmar and set up whatever, invest in Myanmar. Similarly, I would expect Myanmar entrepreneurs to come to India and invest in India. So therefore, you need to work towards strengthening and cementing the long relationship. I'm not sure if Myanmar is doing enough. And because we don't have any representative from the Myanmar government, my request to you would be take this message to the government of Myanmar that you need to work to engage with the government of India to cement the relationship, seek a specific quota for pulses, try and import something from India, try and reduce the trade deficit and build a long-term relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chandrasekhar. Now I will request Mr. Bizay to have their closing remarks.
I think it's a very important point to look at it. Okay, what is the way forward for Myanmar and how we can play this pulses chess game? See, look at some of the hard facts. My estimate is that by 2050, let's take a little long-term view. India will need something about 39 to 40 million tons of pulses. Okay. And we are talking today, our production is something about 22, 23, 24, around this. So there is a requirement of another 100% growth. There is a possibility for demand in Indian market. And our supply is just half. What is important for us to keep in mind is that the land which is there under cultivation is anything between 24, 25 million hectare plus minus 2-3 million hectare, depending on the season and year. At the same time, we have the least productivity in pulses in the world, one of the least, something about 900, less than a ton, like oil seeds. There is a full focused agenda of Government of India to increase the pulses productivity, because one of the biggest problem is seeds of pulses. I'm dealing with policymakers virtually on daily basis, I mentioned. Now there is a very clear scheme how to increase the quality seeds for pulses, because we have to double the yield. Minute I double the yield, my pulse requirement is complete from domestic sources. That's one aspect. So if you look at it, I don't need imported pulses. Technically, I don't need it. Keep that one parameter in mind. Don't close the chapter now. Come to the another opportunity. India is importing 70% of edible oil. It is our one of the biggest burden, edible oil. And we want to diversify from carbohydrate, which is wheat and rice, which is surplus, into other crops for the farmer's income. See, what I'm trying again repeating to you is that don't look into a slot and try to fit in there. If you are looking for a long-term opportunity with India, you have to open the complete chessboard. You can't simply hold one pawn and say that how I should play this game. You will never win the game. India will need, today India is producing something about 650 to 700 million tons of food. By 2030, this is my estimate, which I have shared with the Prime Minister's office, India will need something about 1100 to 1200 million tons of food. Just food. I'm not talking of rubber, cotton and other things. I'm just talking of food. Okay? Can we produce? It means across the board, I have to invest heavily in agriculture and agriculture production system to improve productivity. Without irrigation, without technology, this cannot be done. And food inflation in democracy like India will always be a challenge. Now, with this bigger plan, how Myanmar can take benefit? And I'm saying why you are in the right location, because Bangladesh cannot give me this opportunity, what Myanmar can give me. Look at the whole picture, how you want to fit into the big puzzle. Why you are so obsessed with pulses when there are many more opportunities from Myanmar? Why Myanmar cannot, I'm giving a simple example, why Myanmar cannot give me oilseed, for example? Why Myanmar cannot give me maize if I need it? Why Myanmar cannot give me other crops? Or reverse the game. We tell the government of India that you focus on oil seeds, we are suitable for pulses, I will take care of your pulses requirement. And we will not act like a cartel and suddenly will jack up the price like a bad behavior of a business. What I'm trying to say is that There is a huge opportunity for power of partnership between Myanmar and India in agri-food space. Do you have that desire to play that bigger game, which is good for India and good for Myanmar? And that is where what is lacking is a visionary leadership, both sides. And I don't expect politicians to play that game. I will expect at least sensible traders to come forward, create a consortium of like-minded people, spend some resources, plan it sensibly, educate both sides, Myanmar as well as India, encourage them to enter into some form of a diplomatic understanding, leading to a political understanding, and entering into a bilateral arrangement for long-term 30 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So that whatever we need, we can tell as extended supplier of food to me, ki, boss, can you produce me, for example, pulses 2 million ton extra? I will give you technology, don't worry. I will send my tractors to you. I will give my agrochemicals to you. I'll give you my seeds. Don't worry. I'll help you in increasing the productivity. You produce and I'll buy back as per the given agreement in a predetermined approach or a formula. There is a huge opportunity available. But point is, somebody has to bail the cat. And the problem, both sides. The problem with developing countries is that we are always reactive. We are never proactive. Why some countries are developed? Because they are proactive. Rest of the world is reactive, and that's why they are developing or underdeveloped. You have to think through that you are sitting next to the world's biggest market and you are not able to take the benefit of it. What bigger tragedy can be? There are many things we can discuss. There are ways to go about it. Maybe offline we can share how to go about it. For the time being, this is what I just wanted to put up a last comment. Think of a power of partnership. Don't look into transactional business. Build partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay. Dr. Meolwin, your closing comment.
Yes, I want to make that closing comment only about this quota system. Only about this quota system. Because of that, this COVID effect is not so important. The quota system and license issuing system of the Indian TGFT authorities, we want to suggest and we want to say, I already said in that before, that please, kindly, please, you review your quota allotment little bit earlier for the next year. One thing, because our farmer have to sowing in the month of November, December. This point is, I already requested nearly 4 or 5 times already, because we, our chairman and the Ministry of Commerce, the government authorities, we already fly to the Delhi nearly 4 or 5 times already. And every time we already present these facts. Every time we already suggested that please make the quota allotment for the next coming year as much as possible for the early before this one. Yes. Okay. And then another one thing we want to suggest you, please make that for mutual benefit, not the one side Myanmar farmer, this Indian farmer, mutual benefit. What is a good solution and good answer? Please find out, because you have nearly 3 years experience. What is that benefit? What is that risk? What is that good? What is the bad things? 2018, 2019, you can see all data. A lot of data is there. What is the quota amount? And then how many metric ton already input beyond the quota? And then in 2019 also, what is the quota quantity? And beyond that, how much quantity you already imported? And especially in the 2020, you can see easily. What about the government notification? they have notification first. Their notification is this, the deadline is like this. And
Yeah,
then
Dr.
change.
Merlin, you already told this point. Mr. Batsal is also told that point.
Yes,
But
yes. That
so
means
what
that is why I want to suggest you please make final review and please make some alternative for that, this quota system, alternative quota system and license issuing system. Please review and make the good procedure for coming 2021 is the most important thing I want to
Thank
suggest.
you. Thank you, Dr. Merlin. And last, I will request Mr. Batsal to give closing remarks.
Yeah, I just want to make 2 points. I agree with what Mr. Chandrasekhar and Vijay have said, that basically, the two countries are going to work out a partnership. Now, what Vijay said is that the private sector has got to get involved because it may not be possible to do it at a government level. And as OTA, we have tried, last year and even year before last, when the quotas were announced, we tried to lobby the government directly, but it's not possible for us to do so. The only way to do it is on a government to government level, with us providing the inputs as and when required if we are asked. But we cannot do it under a private sector banner because there is no sanctity, there is no sort of weightage to it. So this is one. The second point that I would like to make is that today, if you look at the total planting area of Tur Hole in Myanmar, it was much larger 3 years back when there was no quota compared to what it is today. Some of that planting area has already been lost. It has been lost to sesame seeds, groundnuts, and all these commodities are going across the border to China. Once this acreage is lost, you cannot bring it back easily. Because once a farmer goes into a different product and he sees that the realization per hectare for him in those products is much larger, is much better, he is not going to come back. So it is also in India's interest to make sure that whatever acreage there is today for dedicated to beans is not lost, because in case in a certain year India does have a bad harvest for whatever weather reason or elsewhere or any other thing, where is it going to get its production from? So Myanmar is a neighbor. We can ship very quickly. Our prices are reasonable. Our quality is accepted. I think it is also in India's interest to make sure that they hold Myanmar as a valuable partner for pulses. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for everybody. Being an outsider, what I understand this pulses business by talking this 1 hour, almost 75 minutes. I think the main thing which we are needing, because every Myanmar is also want to have a quick solution. India also wants quick solution. So Dr. Sarana is giving the answer, and Mr. Chandrasekhar also giving. We need a long-term view, and we should have a better government to government this must sign some agreement, so it will be a win-win situation for both of us. And thank you very much for everybody, Mr. Vijay and Mr. Chandrasekhar, taking out time for your Sunday, I know, and Mr. Batsal, Dr. Mulin, and all our viewers, those have joined. Thank you very much for taking part. I hope it will find in a way some brainstorming will help India-Myanmar better relationship. Thank you very much for talking with me for my Fora talk today. Thank you. Have a good day. Enjoy your Sunday.
God bless. God bless you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Ravindraji, thank you. Very nicely organized.